Good evening, everybody. Glad to see you again. If you were on our earlier version of Pundit's Pundit, starring Jacob Christer, George Icorn, myself, and Denzel Snipes. Now, the second half of the doubleheader includes JB Ellis, George Icorn, Jacob Christer, and you know who? Me. Okay. So, with that said, let's go out there and talk some sports, shall we? So, we'll lead off with, will the real Jets GM please stand up? And let's talk about everything when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. So, how would you rate Aaron Rodgers as the general manager of the Jets?
You know, Aaron Rodgers as the GM of the Jets, if he's playing, it's probably an A or B. If he's not playing, F. Remember this. You get Nathaniel Hackett. You get Nathaniel Hackett, you're getting the espresso boy for Aaron Rodgers and someone who could probably set up a good game plan outside of the deal. He can't call plays. That kind of showed in Denver when he made a pretty much a near Hall of Fame quarterback into, practically Nathan Peterman in one fell swoop. He can't do any of that, but Aaron Rodgers loves him because he gets the game plan and Aaron calls his own. He calls his own game. We already knew this. So guess what? Aaron gets hurt, and then you have to call plays. He had to actually call plays for a guy like Zach Wilson who wasn't ready for that. So,
Right, so
and then there's no Dalvin Cook. There's no Lazard. There's no Cobb. No any of that because there's no Aaron Rodgers.
okay, so
So
you know
it's an
what?
F without him.
I'm going to stop you right there because you're in the GMTA category. Okay, great minds think alike. So let me break down everything that's transpired with them. First of all, we've already talked about it. Nathaniel Hackett is the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. Hard to argue that. Allen-Lazard is now a healthy scratch for games. Who would have thought that? Billy Turner is an absolute turnstile on the offensive line. Randall Cobb only has 3 catches on 12 targets for 20 yards. And like you said, we've been talking about Timboyle all night. Just statistically one of the worst QBs in college and professional football history. And now Dalvin Cook, 3 yards per carry, no TDs. All right, Jacob, now that I rambled off those stats, go ahead and you can continue to elaborate.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm bringing. That's what I'm. It's like we wouldn't be saying any of this if he played all year, because they're probably in with that defense. They're probably in a playoff hunt. Probably a 5-6 seed. They probably are, and there's that time we wouldn't say anything. Then they would call him great, but that's what the media does. They don't do nuance. They don't do any of that kind of thing, and it would look genius in that kind of level, but him going after his friends, the people he trusts, that's every star ever. So you can't, but it's just like, it just backfired because he got hurt. It backfired because he got hurt, and that's the main issue.
Okay, Joe.
Listen, they weren't doing much in Green Bay when he tried to play general manager. Wasn't working out very well there. And then he wanted to leave. So, now he went to his new home, the New York Jets, where there's only fool's gold, and it doesn't work. Jerry Jones and Aaron Rodgers should not be general managers. It's not the way it should happen. There are guys that are great at building teams, and there's guys that are not great. Aaron Rodgers is 0 for 2 doing this. He didn't do well in Green Bay, and he didn't do well, in New York.
Okay. All right, George.
Well, they obviously gave Rodgers way too much leeway in his control over the situation. Whether he's injured or not. We all know he's a superstar coming on board, but he's got way too much say in the matters that are, like you mentioned, on the plate usually of a general manager. And now the good news for the Jets is that he did make his return to the practice field, Rodgers. So he's trying to prove critics wrong, who wrote him off, said he wouldn't be back at all this year. So here he is, 11 weeks after the surgery, practicing. And but like you guys said, their season is lost. They're still technically in contention, but they go on these long losing streaks. This losing streak is 4 games in a row. And you remember they had a 3-game losing streak before when they lost to Dallas, New England, and Kansas City at the beginning of the season, near the front of the season. So they cannot afford a loss anymore. But I agree. I mean, if Aaron wants to get into that kind of role later on, after his playing days are done, I can understand. Maybe he feels like he owes the Jets something because of all the money they spent on him. So that's why he's trying to act like a Jerry Jones or a GM. But no, his focus should be on the field, on the offense, and trying to turn something around that's really not going very well in New York.
All right, now I should point out, folks, that the audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. So whether you're walking, biking, you can find them on those. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers, okay? And please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. All you need to do is participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. Also, we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So you have lots of different ways to go. Now available, my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. See, nobody can accuse me of talking fast today. I'm trying to make sure you get it the first time. Also, the book is available on Amazon and Kindle. And please check out sidelinesports.net. So there you go. Sideline Sports, South Florida Tribune, a great culmination. Now, I also want to point out the fact that the only thing I'll say about Aaron Rodgers is I used to like soap operas when I was in college, and I used to watch General Hospital a lot. But I've never heard of the soap opera called As the Aaron Turns, so or Travels, But there's drama here. You have a drama in Green Bay where they can handle it, and then you have a drama out in New York where they're going to get it. So as the Aaron Turns, you heard from us. All right, let's go to John Shear in the chat room. All right, here we go, Johnny, our fellow colleague of ours. If he doesn't play 65% of the snaps, Green Bay doesn't get a first rounder, which he won't, obviously, 65%. Now he's conveniently getting healthy. Something doesn't add up. John, I don't know if you've heard this from me lately, but, when I do talk to you at some point or another, hopefully sooner than later, you better memorize the phrase GMTA like everybody else does, including Mr. Ellis. Great minds think alike. Something doesn't add up. You don't have to be a math major, but great minds think alike.
Shearer, you know it right. And think about this. People put their own spin on things. He's always been a jerk. Always. They just put their spin based off of beliefs. He's always been a jerk based off of his family and based off of everything. Now you're thinking that you're expecting any different?
Yeah.
Ooh, how do you really feel, Jacob?
Yeah, well, if you really want me to ask me how this guy really feels, then I would go ahead and tell you that while we miss Rick Curdy badly because he's a heck of a person, we got another Mr.
I need to get my glasses on.
Yeah, there you go. We have another guy residing in Georgia who's become our version of Mr. Opinion, although he
I'm Mr. Fact.
I say opinion, it doesn't matter. He's you know what? We're going to call Jacob Christner the modern day Howard Cosell. He tells it like it is. How about that?
I'm a lot better looking than that guy. And I have hair.
I won't get into my Cosell stories. I'll leave those for off camera.
I've got real hair.
Well, we know he had a rug. Okay, I didn't know where he bought the rug. So, now that you baited me on that, I'll tell you this whole Howard Cosell story really quickly. I'm covering a game at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Monday Night Football, and I asked Howard Cosell for an interview. Turned me down. Okay, whatever. Didn't want to give a young guy an opportunity to talk to him, so I ended up talking to Oj.Simpson. Oj.Simpson was real nice. I asked the guy the same question 5 different times, gave me 5 different answers, And boy, you talk about OJ, he helped me build my confidence. So good riddance, Howard. Hello, OJ. Don't care about what you've done now. All I know is you're a good reference when I was learning and growing up in the business, and we'll leave it at that. So
that interview was a killing. I'm telling you right now.
yeah,
Ooh.
that was bad. Yeah, but
Ooh.
it would only come from you that you would make such an analogy like that. So I'll just give me my props for O.J. Simpson in the Orange Bowl. I'm gonna tell you, you had an opportunity early in your lifetime to interview somebody like that. Then
Yeah,
it'd be pretty impressive. I didn't predict what his personal life would be later. I mean, I don't even think Einstein or what do you call it, a fortune teller could have done that. All right. Well, we're gonna,
Before you go on,
What's
right
that?
now, before we go on right now, if any of us had an opportunity to sit down with OJ and have an hour-long interview, would you do it?
Yes.
I know I
Yes.
would.
Without a doubt, of course. I mean, there's so many ways you could go with it. You don't even have to get into the crazy talk of, life after football. Just his football career. You could have an hour conversation without a doubt and make a great interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about it, JB. Well, again, great minds think alike. Okay. And yes, John Shear, now you're coming the other side. One of the greatest running backs ever coming to the other side. There we go. Good stuff, Johnny. At least I know, Johnny. Can you hear me? No, I don't press. He definitely does and probably sees me if you're going that route. All right. So with that said, we're going to go on to from one fortune here. Okay, meaning that you can only imagine all the money that's being tossed around with Aaron Rodgers to another guy who has a good return on investment. Mark Cuban, according to Front Office Sports, is selling a majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks at a $3.5 billion valuation. He paid $285 million for the Mavericks in 2000. I'll tell you one thing. He also probably paid a lot of fines, but Mark Cuban's been nothing good for the NBA. And, I don't blame him for wanting to get out of it. He's still going to call the shots in terms of basketball and all that. But let's face it, I don't blame Mark. He's won a championship. He's done a lot of good things. Why not sell it and be able to get a good return on investment? What are your thoughts, Jacob?
Well, yeah, because remember, basketball operations just means he can run basketball operations. Just the things he can do is he can work with the GM. He can do whatever. Owner means you got to negotiate with leases. You got to do all that stuff. Try to get advertisements. You got to over and over and over. It's going to be a ton of things. Those are things he will not have to do anymore. And overall, he's also leaving Shark Tank. So there's personally to me, I think he's too young to be doing all this, but he's probably been just doing it so long. He wants to just relax a little bit, but you relax, you die. No matter what you think, especially if someone working as much as he has over those years. I'd be bored myself, but good luck to him. Hopefully he finds new challenges.
JB.
Well, Jacob, there's going to be a challenge he's gonna find. Welcome, President Cuban, because you'll be voting for him. Mark my words.
Why not?
Mark my words. I am telling you now. I have it from one of my top sources. I'm going to go on the record and say Mark Cuban is thinking about running for president, and he needed to do these two things before he could actually do it.
As long as your source isn't Deadspin.
No. I have very good sources.
Let JB get his thoughts in for crying out loud. You know what? You remind me of a ball hog, man. Who was the biggest ball hog in NBA history?
Michael Jordan. No.
Yeah. No. Go ahead, JB.
Listen, President Cuban, just, in the likes of President Trump, the next celebrity president of the United States of America.
Easily could.
Not saying anything about any of the political beliefs, because we're not here to do that, but, we've already had a celebrity president. We're going to have number two when Mark Cuban runs for president. So we're going to have two celebrity presidents in our lifetime.
Okay. All right, what do you think, George? A good perspective.
I got to correct my friend, my colleague. Ronald Reagan was also a celebrity. He was a Hollywood entertainer and an actor. So he was also, but I don't know. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, JB. I had not heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit because I know he is very political in his viewpoints. But that being said, the Dallas Mavericks just have not. They just been muddling along the last few years, and he has to get tired of it. I mean, he's gone up against so many battles with NBA ownership and with NBA commissioners and fines and suspensions and all this stuff. And I'm sure he's, even though he's going to be part of the operation of the franchise, like you said, he won't have the headaches of being an NBA owner. But I do think that he's got a good future ahead of him. Obviously, whatever he does, he's a brilliant person, and he does a lot for his community, the Dallas community, I know as well, charity-wise. So there's a lot of work ahead, and it's interesting, though, that if he does turn to politics, I really think that he's going to get a lot of attention. But we'll just leave it at that. He's quite the character, and he's always been one of the great outspoken persons in the NBA. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I've often wondered how long he was going to stay. There comes a point when when the time is right to go away. With all the drama and players not playing more than 65, 70 games, and you paying a lot of money for them, at some point, that's got to weigh on you a little bit too. You have to really, let me tell you, I think the best commissioner I've ever seen in my lifetime, without a doubt, is David Stern. He really is. There's a guy that cracked the whip on everybody. By the same token, the one that I can't stomach is Adam Silver, because to me, he's what you call a patty cake baker's man type of guy, and he'll appease anybody that he can. So you know what? The reality is this. You know what? Who knows what other stuff Cuban is doing anyways right now that we don't even know about.
True, very true.
You also have to look at the fact that the NBA's ratings are starting to decline. We're using these gimmicks like in-season tournaments to try to spark interest, when all you have to do is market a lot better and police your players to play as often as they can and not have rest. And there comes a point where you do simply get fed up with all of it. You really do. So, and let's not forget the fact that here's a guy that only paid $285 million, and he's selling a majority stake. And again, I'll repeat that number again, $3.5 billion. You're talking about a $3 billion return on investment. I'm not going to talk about exactly how much he's spent to invest. That doesn't matter. But all you have to do, and I'm not a math guy anyways, but $3.5 billion for valuation, $285 million, I would say it's a great business decision. I can tell you right now that I'm not a math major, and I'll tell you, I would never have passed my father-in-law's, Fred Ebling's, math class, but at least I got his daughter instead, so it doesn't make any difference. So with that said, okay, let's talk about Deion Sanders. All right, you ready? First year, Deion Sanders, who actually he ends up finishing with a 4-8 record, but in the Pac-12. But get this, okay? He started 3-0 and lost 8 of his last 9 down the stretch. And as I recently heard, okay, he's starting to get some decommit. So, Jacob, let's talk about Deion Sanders. This is not Jackson State, okay? This is, Division I football.
Yeah, and no, the thing is, I said 9-3. I missed on that one. And then it looked good with 3-0 and 4-2. It did, but for one thing, you've heard me 1,000 times. I said I wanted him to stay in the. I wanted him to stay in the Jackson State, and then keep going and keep going and keep going. Let's see, all the African American colleges. Anyway, I wanted him to stay in that world and be able to help it. I wanted him to be able to build it all up, and it's like, but I did also say 9-3, so I was wrong there. But the biggest thing is the decommits. Let's see. The decommits, here's the issue we have with that, is he was going to have decommits if he won. And I'll tell you why, because he's putting everything on video. He's telling these boys to be men, which means come on time, which means go to class, which means be responsible, which means all of that stuff. The decommits, they can win and they're going to lose. He's going to lose them. You're just not going to hear it as much as you would if he's losing. If he's winning, you're not going to hear as much as he would you now. But you're going to hear, he would have decommits anyway, because that scares a lot of people. That scares a lot of people who just kind of want to. They would think that they're getting the star, that they're getting prime time, that they're getting all of this. Then all of a sudden you're going on there and you're seeing someone now as an adult trying to build men, which a lot of these kids don't want. So there's that problem right there. And then another thing, is he going to stay past Shador? Is he going to stay past that? And it's looking doubtful. And personally, to me, this wasn't the reason why. I wanted the Historically Black College University, HBCU. That's what I was thinking of. I wanted him to stay around that because he was the perfect face to be able to build the whole thing up. 1 year later, we don't hear about them on ESPN or anything at all. Whatever games they get from that contract that he helped with are put in purgatory. Those games, they have a contract to do it, but they're in purgatory now. We don't hear them on ESPN. We don't hear anything. They need a face. He was the face. He used his own head. He used his own ego, and now he's gone. And now who knows if he sticks with this whole thing in the first place.
JB.
Listen, he was 4-8. He did it his way. You know, his son is phenomenal. He's a great coach. How many of the losses were by one score? He threw how many new guys on a football team? We're talking about football. We're not talking about baseball where chemistry isn't as important. You know, we're not talking about, you know, a one person sport like tennis where, you know, who cares if you go from Colorado to Arizona or a different school. This is football. You have to have 11 people on offense working together, 11 guys on defense working together. Special teams is another 11, and you have different units on special teams. Throwing all them together in a hurry, and then, you know, they got to get adjusted to go into classes, a different environment. Colorado's not like Florida, not like New York, not like, you know, Utah. Wherever the kids are coming from, they all have to adjust to new surroundings. They're all between 17 and 23, I'm sure. It's a tough time in life to go through changes like that. Let's cut the man a break. You know, he is a phenomenal coach. You know, he's teaching them things that they need to learn in life. And guess what? Not everyone's going to be successful. Not everyone's going to go 12-0. You know, listen, I have no problem with anything the man's done. You know, people that sit there and just rip him. Danny Kanell, who's the biggest clown going, you know, who talks so much. What did Danny Kanell do in his career? Throw a pick six to Deion Sanders. That's what Danny Kanell did. You know, so enough with the ripping on Deion. Give him time. If he doesn't want to stay there, it's his business. He doesn't have to. You know, look at Jimbo Fisher. He got a great job at Texas A&M. He was the next coming of a great coach. What did he do? Oh, he was an assistant coach for Bobby Bowden. Big deal. The guy went to Texas A&M, did nothing, took them nowhere. You know, at least Deion tries. You know, whatever. I can't stand people that rip Deion for no reason. You know,
I'm with you. All right, let's go to the chat room before I turn it over to George. We have some good participation tonight. Okay, well, Anthony Bianchi, cash out Cuban, smart move. Yeah, no doubt about it. And what do you know? One of my favorite people out there, Jennifer Cobb. Yes, Jen, we're going to be doing this again in the very near future about a Parkinson's show. She's certainly she's been a tremendous asset to our network, and we're looking forward to get her on hopefully by the end of the year. And the goal is to keep her on at least minimum 2 times a month for sure. Jen, hope you had a great Thanksgiving and look forward to talking to you soon. God bless you. We're glad you're part of our network more than you'll ever know. All right, back to Anthony. Okay. Deion to Miami won't bring a title, but it will bring in the dollars. Yeah, I guess this show would be turning out to be a finance 101, isn't it? All right, Icorn, what's your take on?
Well, it was the typical media frenzy. Let's be honest. You know, when he started 3-0 at the beginning of the year, everybody was jumping on the bandwagon. But take a look at those points allowed. This team was headed for disaster. You know, 45-42. They win their first game. Here's one, the third game, 43-35. And then they lose 42-9 to Oregon and 48-41 to USC. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. Obviously, he did not have all the kids and all the skill levels he needed on defense. And also their running game was anemic, obviously, because his son wanted to throw the ball 90% of the time. So this season, let me see here, no rusher even got to 100 yards in any one of their games this year. But I agree with you, JB. You bring up a very good point. You know, bringing in all these new kids from the portal and then getting them adjusted to the new university and academics and their athletic schedule and working and housing. You know, people forget about all these things that are going on. And especially when you compound that by the number of kids he had transferring in via the portal, it's even much of a more difficult task. I'm not going to criticize them. I'm sorry the naysayers are out there, but I agree with you guys. I mean, he did a phenomenal job this year, and hopefully, especially early in the year, but hopefully things will turn around for him and his team. I think he's good for football. He does it his own way. He does it his own way. The sunglasses, the hoodie. I mean, come on, this guy's a character, but he that's his livelihood. That's his. Oh man, he's just terrific when he has when he dresses the way he wants to dress. Not the normal college football coach, but I think, Scott, that he did a good job and hope for better things for Colorado next year.
Well, by all means, I think he did a good job under the circumstances. Anytime you turn over your roster and practically build a new team for the portal, that's nobody. No, just because you're bringing a lot of people in, you don't know where they're going to fit and how they're going to fit. It's worth noting, however, that Warren Sapp will be joining Deion out at the University of Colorado next year to be part of his defensive staff. So he's trying to go out there and do whatever he can with familiar faces that have been doing it as long as they have. So I wish Deionsanders good and well, and I think next year it's not impossible to think that they can't get to the 6-7 win territory. Nobody said building anything was easy from the ground up. It usually takes you 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I'm seeing Mario Cristobal at work for the University of Miami, and Rome wasn't built in a day there. All right. Not everything's all bad in Colorado, though. How about those Denver Broncos? 5-game winning streak. They beat Green Bay 19-17 on October 22nd. Kansas City 24-9 on October 29th. The Buffalo Bills 24-22 on November 13th. The Minnesota Vikings 21-20 on November 19th. And the Cleveland Browns 29-12 on November 26th. The only thing I'm going to guarantee you, if the Miami Dolphins face them again, they'll be lucky to get half of 70 the next time. And it'll be you never know. These two teams could meet in the playoffs. So, Miami, you may hold that 70 point, but I think that should you meet Denver, they don't mind giving you the mercy rule in between, although I don't think that'll happen. But the Denver Broncos are a much better team now under Sean Payton, and Russell Wilson is starting to figure it out with Payton. But that said, I'll turn over to Jacob.
Yeah, Miami will still score 30 on them, but the NLB will win. But the biggest thing about this is, what did I say? A lot of people from Pundit, from other shows, from here, heard me say this about the whole deal with Russell Wilson. Hey Ralph, heard me say this. It is, they had Nathaniel Hackett. He's horrible, and it's like, you give him a better coach. It's like, I also said that Russell Wilson is not the same as he was in Seattle. He's not going to be. But if you got him a better coach, which you do, they're going to find his ceiling. I said those words. They found his ceiling. Guess what? He's a little bit of a flashier version of let's say, maybe of a game manager. We'll just say it that way. He's a flashier version of a game manager a little bit. That's what he is now. He's not going to be any more than that. He's not the guy you're going to do. You're going to have a great defense and him not make mistakes, which is happening. And guess what? A better coach found that ceiling. And those are the things. So what if he's not making your stats, if he's not making your fantasy numbers? So what? Again, it's part of winning. They're winning ball games. They're using the defense to do it. I don't care if I can't use Russell Wilson as a starter. I don't care about all that. Good for them. I still think Miami whips them in the playoffs, but I mean, it wouldn't be 70. But thing about it is they are winning now and they're getting closer and they're moving now.
JB?
Listen, what the transformation in Denver from that Miami game to where they are now, that never happens in the same season. That is
No.
so impressive to see a team that gave up 70 points that was flat out embarrassed, and to me, I think it was more embarrassing that Miami didn't go for the record, that they kind of were like, we feel bad for you. We're not going to break the record on you. So it was even more embarrassing. And they've rebounded so much. Their defense is playing lights out. Russ is playing some of his best football ever. Sutton's been unbelievable at wide receiver. Their running back, Williams, is playing well. Just overall, what a transformation. Whatever Sean Payton has done to get control of that team, to get them going in the right direction, just refocusing all that energy compared to what they had to deal with the last year at the beginning of the season. Coach of the year in my mind. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. They're not going to, they're probably not even going to make the playoffs because they're in a tough division and there's a lot of other good teams in the AFC. But, to get that team back to where they're in contention for a playoff spot, that's unbelievable. Great job.
All right, you know what? Before we go to George, let's go back to the chat room. Anthony Bianchi. All right, Jacob, read it since it has your name written all over it.
Jacob knows what's up. Wilson's a backup level quarterback playing winning football. Yep, he is. And that's what he's going to be at. That's what he's going to be, and that's fine. You know what you do? You build the coach's idea it isn't what the fantasy football people want to hear, but it's what this is. You build a team and somebody that doesn't make mistakes and builds the thing, and they can do that. If you can find someone better than Wilson, you go do it. If you can find someone that can get you over the top, you go do it. Till then, you can get so much worse. And I keep having to remind fans of this when they get all over the place on Twitter, on social media, on whatever. And then they want to, on the first incompletion, they want to quit. I want to remind them it can always get worse. And I'm the one that drives these fans nuts when they want to quit on a coach and quit everything after a loss or a bad time. It's like, guess what? You're not going to find anything better. It's like until the thing. So hush up.
All right, George, what are your thoughts on what's going on in Denver?
No, you guys have pretty much nailed it. I mean, they've done a terrific job, a great turnaround. Sean Payton and the crew. Wilson, people had given up on him. Some people in the media. I'll tell you what, 20 touchdown passes, only 4 interceptions. That's phenomenal statistics right there. He's really, really done good there. The thing that Denver is weak on, though, 33 sacks allowed. They got to do better on that. That 33 sacks is a killer. And obviously the offensive line is not where, Sean would like it right now. But you got a crafty veteran, okay? Wilson, say what you want, has had some tough years in the last few, but they've really looked very well and beaten some good teams, like you said, Scott, during that stretch to go 6-5 right now. And who knows? I mean, they still might get a wild card position. We'll have to see how that plays out. But it's a great story for people living in Colorado and fans of the Broncos and Russell Wilson fans. They've done a nice job over there.
Yeah, the only 30 things I'll say to round up the topic is, number one, Sean Payton won a Super Bowl, right? Okay, once upon a time. And I was actually at that game in Miami when they beat the Colts. And number two, okay, Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl. Okay, so you can't lose sight of that. And let's face the reality. You know what? I'm going to go along with what JB had to say. To be able to go from the record that they had to be embarrassed by Miami and to be competing now, I'd certainly give the guy an opportunity. I hope he does win Coach of the Year. I don't care what market I used to be in or I'm not. It doesn't matter. All right, so let's go to Denzel Snipes. Then we're going to go to some top stories today. Denzel Snipes, we got Denver this Saturday. It's going to be a tough game, no doubt about it. So, all right, let's go to some top headlines, as we always do here on the Sports Exchange. Reports that the New York Mets Luis Severino on a 1-year, $13 million contract. Some thoughts, Jacob?
Really, the issue about it is, well, I got to ask this question. 1 year. 1 year. I want to know that part. I want to know from that part why. That's the thing. To me, it's like these contracts right now are coming 3-4 years. Average. It's like I want to know the reason behind the one. Maybe that you get the 13. Maybe is there some reason you have a proven because a 1 year feels like a proven contract?
Yeah,
is there a reason for it?
For you. The guy has a proven injury history, so he's high risk. That's
right.
Probably why.
So that's okay. Good point on that part. But I'm like, if I'm a GM by itself, maybe you have the thing. I might just want to get 2. But if he had, because I think of the 1 year, I'm thinking of what JB said, and which I wasn't for, but it was Bellinger. You know what I'm saying? It was Bellinger. I wasn't for it. He was for it because it was the prove it contract. Might lose Bellinger anyway. And it's like I'd rather have at least 2. That's just personally me.
Okay, JB.
Listen, he was a Yankee for a while, and unfortunately, he wasn't healthy very much. Got hurt way too much. He has a lot of talent, but you can't keep paying guys that get hurt. You need to have healthy players, and the Mets owner, is like a Steinbrenner. He's in a Steinbrenner-like mold. He may not be as confrontational. I don't think he'd go after Buck when he was the manager in the newspapers, or go down to the office and start yelling at him like Steinbrenner would. But he'll spend to do whatever he needs to do to try and buy a winning team. And we've seen, as a Yankee fan firsthand, years and years, that doesn't work. You need to have the mix of your young stars with the proven right veterans and stars that come in. You can't just buy a World Series. It doesn't work. The Dodgers have been trying for ages. The Yankees are kind of went away from that. They built their farm system, and they did phenomenal for a while. And then, like all good things, it comes to an end. But, you look at the teams on the rise now. Arizona, the Cubs, the Detroit's doing really well with building their farm system. There's a lot of teams with a lot of young talent. The Rangers brought up some great young talent and won the World Series. And you see that the teams that have done that are going to go far. Signing guys with injury history, you can't do it for more than a year, and that's why it was that. Exactly.
All right, George.
Yeah, the Mets have a depleted rotation for sure, and are looking for some help here. He spent 8 years with the Yankees. In 2023, this past year was probably his worst, obviously, with that high earn run average and battling some injuries, like you guys said. But it's not that common when a guy crosses over from in the same city from one ball club to the others. It's happened, of course, between the Cubs and the White Sox and the Mets and the Yankees, etc. I liked him when he was good. I mean, Severino had some really good years there with New York. But right now, I can understand why it's only a 1 year deal, like you said, Scott. With the pattern of injuries that he's had, right. And they gave Verlander his walking papers, Scherzer his walking papers. They're trying to get some veteran leadership there in that rotation for the Mets.
All right, back to the chat room. Okay, Denzel Snipes.
Hey, Denz.
Yankees bought a World Series when it actually worked. Moneyball's the game now, no debate.
They bought a bunch of them.
Yeah, okay, let's continue on. Anthony Bianchi, again, good point, JB, if Alonso goes to the Cubs. Yeah, I think that's realistic. All right, next top headline. Nebraska's Matt Rule, a good quarterback in the transfer portal, cost him $1 to $2 million. There you go. Here's a juicy one for you, Jacob.
I am not a Matt Rule fan. The only good thing I can say with him is at least he is boldly honest on these, during his little interviews, during all that stuff, the press conferences. At least you know what you're going to get from him. But it wouldn't even matter with him by itself, is because something in the middle of everything between Carolina and Nebraska and all of this wasn't a good pick to begin with for Nebraska to get him. He's just not that good. Not anymore. The game's changing. He's not. So it wouldn't even matter what he would get in the first place because he's not going to win. It's like he's too stubborn with a system that doesn't work. He did it in Carolina. He does it here. A lot of these coaches Matt Nagy's the same way. They have this whole situation where they believe they need to get a system and the players need to fold through. This isn't Tom Landry anymore. You got to be able to work with the players to be able to get something. And Matt Rule's it's not work. When Matt Rule was winning, it was still sort of that way. Not anymore. He's got to run through, and I don't think he's capable. He's got to change. I don't think he's capable.
All right, we'll go to Denzel before I turn over to JB. First of all, I think Rule's going to do okay with Nebraska. He needs a couple of years. But Denzel, Rule was a success at Baylor. I'm not going to hold Carolina against him because it's still a dumpster fire. All you have to do is read headlines all week with what David Tepper has done to Frank Wright, which was an absolute farce. Nebraska somehow is snake bitten. Denzel, I'm not going to say that yet. We'll talk about it a year from now. All right, Denzel. Now that Denzel said his thing, what do you think, Joe?
Listen, I mean, it's unfortunate. This is college football. The players with NILs and, all the different opportunities, it's the way the game is now, and why shouldn't it be? Should the universities be making billions of dollars? And, these kids, we're not talking about table tennis. You go out there and play, Division I football, there's a chance you could get hurt on any particular play. While an education is a great thing to have, and I'm not saying that they all should take advantage of that, how much money are they making for the university? They deserve every penny they can get. How much does CBS, ESPN, NBC, Fox pay to air every single one of these games? How much do the advertisers pay to put a 30-second spot on, whatever college football game or show that's on any of these networks? Meanwhile, you're going to tell me it makes sense that, any one of these players could go out there and blow out their knee and, yeah, they'll have a great education, but how many people have great educations can't make a good living because the job market sucks?
True.
Meanwhile, if the kid didn't get hurt and he got to play in the NFL, he can make millions. So what's wrong with them making this money? And Matt Rule, listen, it costs what it costs, unfortunately, nowadays to get players with different NIL deals. But, you're in Nebraska. I think you can handle doing it. You're not talking about a smaller university that maybe doesn't have the alumni or the boosters to do so. I'm sure that Nebraska's got enough people that could pony that up.
Not like that, they play in a stadium of over 80,000 fans. Can't forget about that either. All right, George.
Well, they've had a tough road, obviously. It's not been a good year at all over there. 3 wins in the Big Ten. Rule, I still think is a good coach. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Want to see what he can do next year. But as far as, 1 point, whatever he said, 1 million to 2 million to get a quarterback. I mean, these kids are all jumping around. The portal is full. You say the boat is full. The portal is full of student athletes in the NCAA that are moving from one college to the other. We've seen it happen so much in my own state here at Michigan as well, and Michigan State and Michigan have both seen their quarterbacks come and go. But, it's just the way things are. I mean, it's the way of life right now. And yes, you do need a good quarterback if you want to contend. You do need a leader on the field. And yeah, they could get hurt. I mean, we all know that the injury bug is out there. But no, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know that I still think Rule is a good coach. I don't know if he's the best coach for them, but give him another year or two. Let's see how things play out there. But how the mighty have fallen. We remember the days when the Cornhuskers, oh my gosh, those great rivalries with Oklahoma and the Big Ten being so smart and plucking them and putting them, incentivizing them to come to the Big Ten way back in the day, as they did with Penn State. Those were 2 great additions to the Big Ten. So I still think there's hope. They love their football in Nebraska. That's king. That's all they got. So yeah, Scott, I'm going to give them a flyer on this year, but look for next year. Hopefully they'll improve.
All right,
Every time I hear Portal, I keep thinking Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure with George Carlin inside of a phone booth.
All right, let me put a couple comments up from Denzel. Imagine if NIL was around when Latimer blew out his knee at South Carolina. That's true.
All right.
And then there's another one. I'm just listing them. I have one more topic I want to get to. Tommy Frazier is the greatest option QB of all time. No debating that. So with that said, one more topic, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up the broadcast. First of all, the Detroit Red Wings fans are going to have to wait a little bit while Patrick Kane's first game donning the wing wheel. They actually signed him a 1-year, $2.75 million. Of course, part of the reason that he went there. Alex DeBrincat.
Uh-oh.
I think what Scott was going to tell you is that Alex DeBrincat is a good friend of Patrick Kane. So they played together with Chicago and the Blackhawks. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and ask you guys, Jacob, what are your thoughts of Patrick Kane going to the Detroit Red Wings?
You wouldn't have seen this I'm just saying, even a few years earlier. Maybe it's the business side and everything. I'm going to say go back to about 15, 20 years. It was like the biggest thing about it was rivalries. Rivalries in hockey is personal almost. So you have Chicago and Detroit. So he goes. Brett Hull did it. But it's like, but you wouldn't have done this all the way those years. A couple of decades ago, that wouldn't even done that. It's like it shows more and more now that this era does not care. They look at there's a paycheck, there is all that, but at the end he brought his buddy. He brought his buddy with him, and it's like, especially if you've been on the team as long as you have, and you've been to everything, at least you want someone with you, to go into a locker room,
Well, he took a detour through the New York Rangers to make his way back to Detroit.
But
all right,
I'm saying when you're an arrival. When you're around, you get my point, though. But I'm saying when you're getting this thing, he's taking his people with him.
Okay, JB.
Listen, nowadays professional sports, there's no loyalty to a team if you're a player. You're looking to go where you want to go, where you can make the most for yourself, your family, for whatever is most important to you. There's very few guys that have that, Eli Manning, Don Mattingly type thing. I played for this team. I don't care that I can play for another team. If I can't play here, I'm not playing anymore. And if you have the opportunity to earn money to play the game you love and you could go somewhere else and do it, more power to you. Is it going to help Detroit that much at this stage in his career? Probably not, but, I'm sure that they found a reason to bring him in. Maybe he could help some of the younger guys come along, and that's valuable to people, to teams. So, I'm sure there's a reason for it.
Can I ask one question real fast?
Sure.
How long do you give this? How long do you give this rebuild of Detroit, of the Red Wings?
I wouldn't be surprised they get in the playoffs this year, if not next year. But I got a good feeling they're going to get in this year.
Well, and they could easily be, but I'm like, it's like I said, they've been going a bit. It's been going a bit. They've got to remember they started this when they ended. They basically started this when they ended their playoff streak, and it's just they kind of built everything from that. So how long does it take, really? I was going to say,
Depends on the organization. With Steve Yzerman, he gets things done within a few years. Remember, he built the nucleus of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Lightning, I don't think it's really been the same since Yzerman left. But there's no better person to talk about than George Eichhorn. Go ahead, George.
Oh, well, I don't pretend to be an expert, but thank you, Scott. There are some people that are questioning, the Red Wings still have not made the playoffs in umpteen years, and Yzerman is the man that is entrusted to do that. But you're right. I think this is a move that they see. They're 11-6 right now, and they see an opportunity to get into the playoffs, hopefully, for their sake. It was a low risk, kind of thing. I mean, Kane is coming off that hip surgery. That's a tough injury for anybody in sports, especially hockey players. So nobody really knows. He has been working out very good the last several months, according to reports I've read. And he had a really good interview with the Red Wings coach when the Wings were in Sweden. They did a teleconference and that, so everything went good. And of course, the Brinket, being his buddy on the team, that sort of thing. And Larkin does have some nagging injuries, so their leader, Dylan, is going to miss a few games. So they say that they're hopeful that Buffalo game next week is when the new Red Wing Kane will get in the lineup. But I think it's a solid move.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who has championship experience, and you're bringing him with Alex DeBrincat. And how many times you've seen from teammates join each other, and they do pretty well when they're even reunited. So I think it's a low risk reward. When you talk 1 year, $2.75 million, and I imagine that number is probably prorated anyways, based on what you have now. I don't think they're getting the whole $2.7 million. And if it works out, the Red Wings, you're talking about a guy that signed with he's actually played on 3 original 6 teams.
Yes.
When you think about it. You talk about the Blackhawks. All right, Jacob, go ahead. While I
was going to say this really fast. Here's how you can tell. I always joke about my gray hair, but do you want to know how you can tell you're getting gray hair? No. When you grew up and who was getting older? Al McInnes. Wayne Gretzky was getting older. I'm just saying these are people getting the thing. It's like Brett Hull was in a prime. Blah, 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 blah. Do you see this gray hair right now? Patrick Kane's getting older. Sidney Crosby's getting older. Joe Thornton just retired. and it's like a couple years ago was Zdeno Chara. And it's like, that's when time flies by. That's just when you know it.
I just want to inform everybody that Jacob Christner's interrupted moment is presented by Sideline Sports. So,
gee, thanks.
No problem. Hey, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's all right. That doesn't matter. He thinks, well, what do you want me to call it? You have anything else?
You got more hair than Howard Cosell, Jacob.
Yeah, we never know. So, anyways, now that Jacob did but he's played for 3 original 6 teams, so pretty neat to do that. So, no show would be fun unless I can bust Jacob Christner's chops at least once a night now, wouldn't it?
I give it to everybody else, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I like dishing it out to you, man. Yeah. I mean, I really do, but at least they handle it with a lot of class, and that's really all that matters anyway. So, once again, this is a sports exchange, and yes, Denzel Snipes has we're going to have to see if we can go out there and start another broadcast if we don't have let's go out there. What do you think, JB? You want to partner us on this stand-up comedy hour? Sorry, Scotty, LOL. All right, there you go, JB. That may be one of the things we talk about when we get together with you tomorrow. Unbelievable stuff. I don't know. We got all this creativity inside of our system, and I can only imagine as 2024 how much more we're really going to get this going anyways. But yes, Jacob, I'm proud of you. You are consistent on every show, but at least you do it putting your finger up so that way I know it's coming for those of you that are watching on YouTube. Anyways, with that said, I want to point out that the audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. I can't keep a straight face anymore. I'm losing it. But I better get through this at least. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube. South Florida Tribune. Yeah, it's all right. Keep going out there covering your face, Christner. We're striving for more subscribers. Oh, gosh, help me. Please also comment, like, and share. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. And if you're looking to send Jacob Christner any hate mail, send it to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. We'll forward it on to him. Okay, or like mail. He gets it both ways. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now available, my book, Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. Available on Amazon or Kindle. Also, check out SidelineSportsNet.com, and we're going to be doing an awful lot of work on that website. If not, we're doing a little bit of work on it now, but and watch out for 2024. We're going to be getting a lot more done on that site as well. But Candy Ebling is the mastermind behind all of that, and we're going to have a lot of good ideas to try to make them a very, very strong website that they'll be able to do a lot of good stuff with. With that said, Jacob Christner, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yes. Jake the Pundit on Twitter, Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok, Jacob Christner on Facebook. 5 days I mean 5 shows a week, 6th on the bench. Just keep it on going. I'm building it as I do a couple movies also, and I do some writing.
All right, JB.
JB _ the program on X. Sideline Sports every Tuesday night, 8:30 live on WDJY in Atlanta, Wednesday, 7 to 8 in the morning. NFL pregame show Sunday, 12 noon to 1 on WDJY. Alumni Players, NFL Player Network here, NGBN. I'm sure I'm missing places. There's so many. DBTV. I think that's it.
All right. Well, we have another author. George, go ahead.
Yeah, my book is out there too. It's been out for a while, but Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. There's a link at the end of my column. I write for Scott and Candy at the South Florida Tribune. Drill down to the Motor City Tribune, and you'll find my columns along with those of Scott and Jeremy Bullock and a lot of other great writers, Jacob. And you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com or on Twitter at SanGSports99. And you can follow me on Pundit's Pundit and Inside the Pigskin and 108 Stitches. And, of course, this wonderful Sports Exchange show, which Scott and I started along with Phil Guastella many moons ago. So we love the format, and we hope you do too out there.
And the reason why you see the same 4 people week in and week out, one thing, our big policy here is to make sure that we have continuity and consistency, and that's why the 4 of us do it every Wednesday night. So meanwhile, with that said, on behalf of Jacob Christner, JB Ellis, and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth Motor City Manmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we will see you next Wednesday night. Good night, everybody.